They shoved my wheelchair into the lake and declared, "She's gone, now the $500,000 and the house are ours." But I didn't sink. I swam. And the camera captured everything. Before we continue, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to hear my story. If you're comfortable, let me know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. Now let me tell you my story. The sunset was spectacular that evening, ribbons of orange and pink stretching across the sky, reflecting off the still surface of Lake Morrison. My lake, the lake I'd lived beside for 30 years, the lake where I swam nearly every morning, the lake that had become as much a part of me as my own heartbeat. I should have known something was wrong when Tyler suggested we watch the sunset from the dock. My grandson had never been interested in sunsets before. "Come on, Grandma," he said, his hands on the handles of my wheelchair. "Let's get you closer to the water. The view is better from the end of the dock." His wife Amber walked beside us, her phone in her hand, barely looking up. She'd been distracted all evening, checking her phone constantly, whispering to Tyler when she thought I couldn't hear. "I'm 68 years old, and I use a wheelchair. Severe rheumatoid arthritis attacked my legs 15 years ago, destroying the cartilage in my knees and ankles until walking became an exercise in agony. The wheelchair gave me back my independence, my mobility, my life. But some people see the wheelchair and assume it defines me. They see limitation, weakness, helplessness. They don't see Dorothy Chen, Olympic bronze medalist, swimming coach for 30 years. A woman who's been in the water since she could walk, who's more comfortable in a pool than on land, whose arms are still powerful from decades of compensating for legs that no longer work properly. Tyler and Amber saw the wheelchair. They never asked about the woman sitting in it. That was their first mistake. My name is Dorothy Chen, and before I tell you about the night my grandson tried to murder me, you need to understand who I am. In 1976, I competed in the Montreal Olympics as part of the United States women's swimming team. I was 20 years old and I'd been training for that moment since I was 5 years old. My event was the 4x100-meter freestyle relay. We won bronze. I can still remember standing on that podium, the medal heavy around my neck, the national anthem playing, tears streaming down my face. It was the culmination of 15 years of 5 a.m. practices, of chlorine-burned eyes, of muscles pushed past their breaking point. After the Olympics, I didn't stop swimming. I became a coach, spending 30 years training the next generation of swimmers. I coached at the university level, at the club level, at the Olympic trials. I watched dozens of my students go on to compete nationally, internationally. 3 of them made Olympic teams. I loved every minute of it. Then, at age 50, my body betrayed me. Rheumatoid arthritis is an autoimmune disease where your body attacks itself. In my case, it attacked my joints, primarily my knees, ankles and hips. Within 2 years I went from coaching poolside to needing a cane. Within 5 years the pain was so severe I couldn't walk more than a few steps without crying. The wheelchair wasn't a surrender. It was liberation. It meant I could move again without agony, could live my life instead of being trapped by pain. I adapted my swimming technique, learned to use my arms primarily, letting my legs trail. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. I still swam every morning when the weather allowed. Right here in Lake Morrison, in the water behind my house. My husband Robert had bought this house specifically for the lake access. He knew I needed to swim like other people need to breathe. When he died a year ago from a heart attack, the house and everything in it became mine. The house, worth about $800,000. His life insurance $500,000. Our savings, another $200,000. I was a wealthy widow, comfortable, secure, and apparently in my grandson's eyes, ripe for exploitation. Tyler had always been a difficult child. My daughter Rachel had done her best. She was a good mother, patient and loving. But Tyler had a streak of entitlement that no amount of parenting seemed to cure. He'd gone to college on my dime. I'd paid his tuition at a good state university because Rachel couldn't afford it. He'd graduated with a degree in business and promptly failed at every business venture he tried. A restaurant that closed within 6 months. A tech startup that never got funding. A real estate investment scheme that lost money. Tyler was 32 years old and had never held a steady job. He lived off his wife Amber's salary as a dental hygienist and the occasional loan from family members that was never repaid. He'd been asking about my will for months. "Grandma, have you updated your estate planning? You know, after Grandpa died? Grandma, who's the beneficiary on your life insurance? Grandma, have you thought about what happens to the house when you're gone?" I'd brushed off these questions, attributing them to concern. Maybe he was worried about me. Maybe he wanted to make sure everything was in order. I see now how naive that was. They'd come for dinner that Tuesday evening in late August. The weather was perfect, warm but not hot, a gentle breeze coming off the lake. Tyler had called 2 days earlier. "Grandma, Amber and I would love to come visit. We haven't seen you in months. Can we bring dinner?" It had been months. Tyler had been distant since Robert's funeral, barely calling, never visiting. I'd attributed it to grief. He'd been close to his grandfather. Maybe he needed time to process. So I'd said yes, happy to see my grandson, happy to have company in this big house that felt so empty without Robert. They'd arrived at 6 with takeout Chinese food and wide smiles. "Grandma, you look great." Tyler hugged me, and I noticed he held on a bit longer than usual, his eyes scanning the house as if cataloging everything in it. Amber had hugged me too, her perfume overwhelming, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. We'd eaten dinner on the back deck overlooking the lake. Tyler asked questions about my health, about how I was managing alone, about whether I needed help with anything. "I'm managing fine," I told him. "I have a cleaning service come twice a month. A neighbor helps with yard work. I do my own cooking, my own bills. I'm doing well, Tyler." "But Grandma, you're in a wheelchair. That must make things hard." "I've been using a wheelchair for 15 years. I'm quite adapted to it." "Still, at your age living alone, have you thought about assisted living, or moving in with Mom?" "I'm 68, not 90. And I love this house. I'm not going anywhere." Something flickered across Tyler's face. Was it frustration, anger? But it was gone too quickly for me to be sure. After dinner, as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Tyler suggested we watch the sunset from the dock. "The view is so much better from out there," he said. "Come on, Grandma. Let me push you." I should have said no. Should have recognized the eagerness in his voice as something other than kindness. But he was my grandson. The boy I'd watched grow up. The child I'd helped raise. So I said yes. Tyler wheeled me down the sloped path from the deck to the dock. It was a sturdy structure built by Robert years ago, extending 30 feet into the lake, wide enough for my wheelchair, with railings on both sides, except at the very end, where the railings stopped to allow for swimming access. Tyler positioned me right at that end. Right at the edge. There. Perfect view, right, Grandma? The sunset was beautiful. I had to admit that. The sky was ablaze with color. The lake a mirror reflecting the glory above. Amber stood beside me, her phone out, supposedly taking pictures, but I noticed she was angling the camera more at me than at the sunset. "Grandma," Tyler said, his voice taking on a serious tone, "we need to talk about your will." "Tyler, I've told you, everything is settled. My lawyer has all the documents. Rachel is the executor. Everything will be handled when the time comes." "But when is the time coming, Grandma?" "You could live another 20 years. The words hung in the air, and I felt a chill despite the warm evening. "I certainly hope to," I said carefully. "But we need the money now." His voice had changed. No longer the affectionate grandson. Something harder. Colder. "Tyler, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you're sitting on over $1 million while Amber and I can barely make rent. It's not fair, Grandma. Life isn't fair." "Tyler, but that money is mine. Robert and I worked for it. It's for my security." "Your security? You're an old woman in a wheelchair. How much security do you need?" "Tyler Christopher Chen, watch your tone with me." He laughed. A harsh, bitter sound. "Or what? What are you going to do about it?" "Wheel away." Amber giggled. Actually giggled. Fear prickled down my spine. "Take me back to the house." "Now, I don't think so." Tyler's hands were on the back of my wheelchair. "See, Amber and I have been doing a lot of thinking, about our future, about our finances, about what we're owed." "You're not owed anything. I'm your grandson, your only grandson. That money should come to me. It will come to you. Eventually. Through your mother. When I die. Naturally. Eventually isn't good enough." His voice dropped to a whisper. "We need it now." "Tyler, you're scaring me. Take me back to the house." Instead, he pushed the wheelchair forward. The front wheels went over the edge of the dock, tipping the chair forward at a terrifying angle. "Tyler, stop." "Sorry, Grandma." His voice was empty of emotion. "But we need that money now, and you're in the way." He shoved the wheelchair hard. I screamed as the chair tipped completely forward, and I plunged into the cold water of Lake Morrison. The shock of the cold water hit me first. Lake Morrison is fed by underground springs, and even in August it's cold. The wheelchair pulled me down immediately. Its heavy steel frame, cushioned seat, and it sank like a stone with me strapped into it. I hit the muddy bottom of the lake in what felt like seconds. 6 feet down, maybe 7. The water was murky at this depth, dark and terrifying. For a moment, one horrible endless moment, I panicked. I was going to drown. Tyler had pushed me into the lake and I was going to drown, strapped to this chair at the bottom of the lake, and no one would ever know it was murder. Then something in me clicked. Muscle memory. Training. 30 years of coaching. 50 years of swimming. My hands found the wheelchair buckle, the safety strap across my chest that kept me from sliding forward. I unbuckled it with fingers that knew what to do even in the dark cold water. I pushed against the arms of the chair, launching myself up and away from the sinking wheelchair. My legs were useless. They always were, but my arms were powerful. Stronger than most people's, strengthened by decades of swimming, of pulling myself along pool edges, of transferring from wheelchair to car to bed and back again. I kicked my legs weakly, but it was my arms that mattered. My arms that pulled me upward through the dark water toward the surface. I broke through, gasping, sucking in air, treading water, and I heard voices from the dock. Tyler and Amber, congratulating themselves. "She's gone," Amber said, her voice clear across the water. "The old woman's finally gone. Now the $500K and the house are ours." "Took long enough," Tyler replied. "I've been waiting for her to die for years. Finally got tired of waiting." "How long do we wait before calling 911? 20 minutes. We went inside to get dessert. Came back and discovered she was missing. Tragic accident. Old woman in wheelchair rolled into the lake. Will anyone question it? Why would they? She's old. She's in a wheelchair. She lives alone. Accidents happen." They were walking back toward the house and I could hear Amber's laugh carrying across the water. "Finally. That house is worth at least $800,000. And the life insurance, and her savings. We'll be set. Should have done this months ago. But I needed to wait until Mom was out of town so she couldn't interfere." Their voices faded as they went inside. I floated there in the darkening water, treading water with just my arms, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst. My grandson had tried to murder me. Had pushed me into the lake, expecting me to drown. Was inside my house right now planning how to spend my money. The rage that filled me was like nothing I'd ever experienced. White hot, consuming, absolute, but underneath the rage was something colder. More calculated, because Tyler and Amber had made one critical miscalculation. They'd forgotten, or more likely, never known that I was an Olympic swimmer. They saw the wheelchair and assumed helplessness. They used water as their murder weapon when water was my element, my strength, my home. And they had no idea that 3 months ago, after some break-ins in the neighborhood, I'd installed a comprehensive security camera system, including cameras on the dock, cameras that had just recorded my attempted murder. I swam silently to the shore, staying low in the water, using a side stroke that made no splash. Years of coaching had taught me every efficient swimming technique ever invented. The boathouse was 30 feet from the dock, set back on the shore. Robert had built it years ago to store our kayaks and swimming equipment. And inside it I kept a spare wheelchair, an older model but functional for getting in and out of the lake when I swam. I pulled myself onto the shore, my arms doing all the work, dragging my nearly useless legs behind me. It wasn't pretty, but it worked. Inside the boathouse I stripped off my soaking clothes, found an old towel and a windbreaker hanging on a hook. I dried off as best I could, wrapped the windbreaker around myself, and transferred into the spare wheelchair. Through the boathouse window, I could see my house. The lights were on in the kitchen. I could see Tyler and Amber moving around, probably making coffee, probably rehearsing their story. My hands were shaking from cold, from shock, from rage. But my mind was clear. Tyler thought he'd committed the perfect murder. He'd staged an accident, eliminated the witness, and was about to inherit everything. What he didn't know was that his victim was very much alive, very much aware of what he'd done, and very much prepared to make sure he paid for it. I wheeled myself across the lawn, staying in the shadows, going not toward the house but toward the garage. My van was there, a modified vehicle with hand controls that I could drive without using my legs, but I wasn't going anywhere yet. First, I needed to access my security system. The security system control panel was in the garage, mounted on the wall near the door. I pulled up the interface on my phone. Yes, it's waterproof, thank God, and accessed the cloud storage where all the camera footage was uploaded in real time. There it was, clear as day, despite the fading evening light. Tyler pushing my wheelchair, me screaming, the chair tipping forward and me plunging into the water. and the audio crystal clear, because I'd paid extra for high-quality audio recording. Amber? She's gone now. The $500 K and the house are ours. Tyler. Finally. Been waiting for the old woman to die for years. Their conversation about staging the discovery, about waiting 20 minutes, about calling 911 and pretending to be shocked. It was all there. Every damning second. I downloaded the footage to 3 different USB drives, uploaded it to my personal cloud storage, emailed it to myself at 2 different email addresses. Then I made the first phone call. Detective Park, this is Dorothy Chen. I need your help. My grandson just tried to murder me. James Park had been one of my swimming students 25 years ago. A talented kid good enough to make it to regional competitions, though not quite Olympic material. He'd gone into law enforcement instead, and we'd kept in touch over the years. He was a homicide detective now with the county sheriff's department. Coach Dorothy. His voice was confused. What do you mean someone tried to murder you? Exactly what I said. My grandson Tyler pushed me into the lake in my wheelchair 45 minutes ago. He and his wife think I drowned. They're in my house right now planning how to stage the discovery of my body. Are you safe? I'm in my garage. I swam to shore after they pushed me in. James, I have video evidence. Security camera footage of the entire incident. You swam. He stopped. Of course you swam. Coach, I'm calling for backup right now. Don't go back in that house. Stay where you are. We're coming in silent. No sirens. I want to catch them in the act. Thank you, James. Coach? I'm glad you're okay, and I'm sorry your family did this to you. After I hung up, I made the second call. My daughter Rachel lived 3 hours away in the neighboring state. She was at a work conference this week. Tyler had known she'd be out of town. Mom, is everything okay? It's late. Rachel, I need you to sit down. My voice was shaking now, adrenaline giving way to the enormity of what had happened. Mom, you're scaring me. What's wrong? Tyler tried to kill me tonight. He pushed me into the lake. He and Amber thought I drowned. They're planning to stage it as an accident so they can inherit. Silence. Then. What? I'm sending you a video, watch it. Then get in your car and drive here as fast as you can. Your son tried to murder your mother. I hung up and sent her the video footage. 30 seconds later my phone rang. Rachel screaming and crying. I'm coming. I'm leaving right now. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault. Just get here. I made more calls. My lawyer, my best friend Susan, who used to be a prosecutor, and finally I called the one person I knew would ensure this story got the attention it deserved. Jennifer Walsh, investigative reporter for the local news station. Her daughter had been one of my swimming students. Mrs. Chen, it's 11 p.m. Is everything okay? Jennifer, how would you like an exclusive on an attempted murder? I have video evidence. And the perpetrators are in the victim's house right now planning how to stage the discovery of the body. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I waited in the garage, watching the clock, watching the house. Tyler and Amber were still inside, still planning, still confident they'd gotten away with murder. At 11:35 p.m., exactly 45 minutes after they'd pushed me into the lake, I saw them come out onto the back deck. Tyler was holding his phone. Amber was beside him, her face arranged in an expression of concern. They walked down toward the dock, their movements visible in the security floodlights that illuminated the yard. I watched on my phone as they reached the dock. Tyler peered down into the water, where my wheelchair was visible at the bottom in the beam of his flashlight. Then he pulled out his phone and dialed 911. Emergency services. What's your emergency? My grandmother. Tyler's voice was panicked. Perfect. She's in a wheelchair and she's in the lake. I think she drowned. Please send help. He gave the address, crying. Actual tears. I could hear them in his voice. I don't know how long she's been in the water. We went inside for just a little while and when we came back she was gone. Her wheelchair is at the bottom of the lake. Amber was crying too. Sobbing dramatically. Please hurry. My grandmother. Please. The 911 operator was trying to calm him down, asking questions, keeping him on the line. I watched it all from the garage, feeling nothing but cold contempt. He was good. I had to give him that. His performance was convincing. If I'd actually drowned, no one would have questioned it. Elderly woman in a wheelchair living alone by a lake. Tragic accident. Would barely make the local news, but I hadn't drowned. And in about 3 minutes Tyler's world was going to explode. The first car to arrive was Detective James Park's unmarked sedan. No sirens, no lights, just like I'd asked. He pulled into my driveway and got out, followed by 2 uniformed officers who'd arrived in a second car right behind him. Tyler and Amber were still at the dock, still on the phone with 911, still performing their grief. James approached them, his badge out. Tyler Chen. Tyler turned, relief flooding his face. Officer, thank God, my grandmother is in the lake. We need divers. We need to talk, James said coldly, about the attempted murder you committed 45 minutes ago. Tyler's face went blank. What? The attempted murder of your grandmother, Dorothy Chen? I don't know what you're talking about. My grandmother drowned. It was an accident. Her wheelchair didn't roll anywhere. You pushed it, with her in it, into the lake. And then you and your wife walked away, discussing how you were going to spend her money. Amber had gone white as a sheet. How do you... We didn't... A third car pulled up, then a fourth, more police, an ambulance, and then Jennifer Walsh's news van. Tyler saw the camera and something in him broke. Turn that off. You can't film this. Public property, public arrest. This is news, Mr. Chen. James pulled out his phone. Would you like to see the evidence? We have security camera footage. Security cameras? Tyler's voice was barely a whisper. Your grandmother installed them 3 months ago. They caught everything, and then I wheeled out from the garage. Tyler and Amber turned, saw me, and I watched the color drain from both their faces. How? Amber whispered. You went in the water. I wheeled right up to them, my voice steady and cold. I did. You pushed me, I swam. The look on Tyler's face was something I'll never forget. Shock, horror, disbelief. And underneath it all, rage that I'd survived. Grandma, he stammered. Thank God you're okay. We were so worried. Your wheelchair must have rolled. Stop. Detective James held up his hand. We have video. Don't make this worse by lying. James set up his laptop on the hood of his car. The news camera was filming everything. Jennifer was getting it all. He played the security footage. Full screen, clear as day despite the evening light. Tyler grabbing the handles of my wheelchair. Me saying, Tyler, you're scaring me. Take me back to the house. Tyler pushing me toward the edge. My scream as the chair tipped forward. The splash as I hit the water. And then the audio as Tyler and Amber walked away. Amber, she's gone. Now the $500 K and the house are ours? Tyler, finally. Been waiting for the old woman to die for years. Their discussion of timing the 911 call. Their plan to claim it was an accident. When the video ended, the silence was deafening. Tyler's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. We were just joking. We didn't mean... Joking about murder? James's voice was hard as steel. Let me play it again so you can hear how funny it was. He played it again, and again. Each time, it looked worse. Tyler tried a different approach. Grandma is confused. She's elderly. She probably misunderstood our conversation. I'm 68. Not senile, I said, my voice cutting through his excuses. You tried to kill me. You pushed me into the lake and walked away, planning how to spend my money. Amber, desperate, turned on Tyler. You said she couldn't swim. You said she'd drown for sure. You said it would look like an accident. Shut up. Tyler grabbed her arm. Don't say anything. But Amber was panicking now. You said she was helpless. You said the wheelchair meant she couldn't survive in the water. James looked at me. Can you explain why they thought that, Mrs. Chen? I use a wheelchair due to severe arthritis in my legs, I said clearly. For the camera, for the record. But I'm an Olympic swimmer, bronze medalist, 1976 Montreal Olympics. I've been swimming since I was 5 years old. I swim in this lake almost every morning. My legs don't work well, but my arms are very strong. Strong enough to unbuckle myself from a sinking wheelchair and swim to safety. I looked directly at Tyler. You thought my wheelchair made me helpless. You saw disability and assumed weakness. You forgot or never knew what I'm capable of. That was your fatal mistake. A car screeched into the driveway and Rachel came running out. She took one look at the scene, police cars, news camera, Tyler in handcuffs, and let out a sound somewhere between a scream and a sob. Tyler Christopher Chen. Tyler turned toward his mother. Mom, thank God you're here. Grandma is confused. She doesn't understand. Rachel slapped him, hard. The sound echoed across the yard. Don't you dare, she hissed. I saw the video. I heard what you said. You tried to kill your grandmother. Mom, I can explain. Explain what? Explain how you pushed your grandmother into a lake. Explain how you planned to steal her money. Explain how you're such a piece of shit that you'd murder the woman who raised you, who paid for your education, who helped you every time you failed. Rachel turned to me, tears streaming down her face. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It's not your fault, honey. It is. I raised him. I should have seen this in him. You didn't raise a murderer, Rachel. He chose this. All of it. More cars arrived. My lawyer, Margaret. My friend, Susan. People I'd called to witness this. To make sure there could be no cover-up, no questions about what had happened. Detective James addressed Tyler formally. Tyler Chen, you're under arrest for attempted murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and elder abuse. You have the right to remain silent. Tyler was crying now. Real tears, finally. I'm sorry. I was desperate. I have debts. Everyone has debts, I said coldly. Not everyone commits murder. Amber was arrested too. Both of them cuffed and put into separate police cars. As they led Tyler away, he looked at me one last time through the car window. Grandma, please. I'm your grandson. I wheeled up to the car, looked him dead in the eyes. You stopped being my grandson the moment you pushed me into that lake. You saw me as nothing but money, as an obstacle, as something to be eliminated. You forgot I'm a person. A strong person. A survivor. You thought my wheelchair made me weak. You thought water would kill me. You forgot I'm an Olympic swimmer. Jennifer Walsh appeared beside me with her microphone. Mrs. Chen, can you tell our viewers what happened tonight? I looked directly into the camera. My grandson Tyler Chen and his wife Amber pushed me into Lake Morrison in my wheelchair, intending for me to drown. They wanted my life insurance money, $500,000, and my house worth $800,000. What they didn't know is that I'm a 1976 Olympic bronze medalist in swimming. The water is my element. It's where I'm strongest. I swam to safety, called the police, and provided video evidence of the attempted murder. Tyler and Amber are now under arrest. And I'm still here, still alive. Still fighting. My message to other elderly people: you are not helpless, you are not weak, and you deserve to be protected, especially from family members who see you as nothing but money. The news van pulled away to file the story. Within an hour it would be on the late news. By morning it would be national news. Olympic swimmer foils grandson's murder plot. Elderly woman survives attempted drowning. Grandmother records her own attempted murder on security camera. The story went viral before sunrise. The investigation that followed uncovered even more damning evidence. When police searched Tyler's laptop seized with a warrant, they found weeks of premeditation, browser history showing searches for how to stage drowning accident, how long until someone drowns, elderly drowning statistics. Can wheelchair users swim? He'd researched it, planned it, thought through every detail, except the detail where I was a champion swimmer. They also found forged checks. Over the past 6 months, Tyler had stolen $15,000 from my bank account, forging my signature on checks made out to cash. I hadn't noticed because the amounts were small, $500 here, $800 there, just enough to fly under my radar while I was grieving Robert's death. Tyler had been stealing from me for months. And when stealing wasn't fast enough, he decided to simply kill me. There was also a draft email on his phone, never sent, to a real estate agent. We'll have lakefront property available for sale soon. 4-bed, 3-bath, 3,000 skip flight. Lake access. Dock. Owner recently deceased. Looking to list within 2 weeks of inheritance clearance. Please contact for details. He'd written it 2 days before he tried to kill me. He'd already been planning to sell my house before my body was even cold. Susan, my friend who used to be a prosecutor, reviewed all the evidence and shook her head. Dorothy, this is first-degree murder, conspiracy, attempted murder, elder financial abuse, fraud. This isn't a crime of passion. This was calculated, premeditated, and evil. If you'd actually drowned, he'd be facing murder charges right now. As it is, he's still facing 25 to 30 years in prison. The trial was 6 months later. Tyler's defense attorney tried every angle. Tried to claim Tyler was just trying to scare me, not actually kill me. Tried to suggest I was confused about what happened. Tried to paint Tyler as a desperate man who made a mistake. But the evidence was overwhelming. The video footage showed clear intent. Tyler pushing the wheelchair, walking away while discussing my death, planning the staged discovery. His internet search history showed premeditation. Weeks of research into drowning accidents, into staging deaths, into inheritance timelines. The forged checks showed financial motive and a pattern of exploitation. And my testimony, clear, detailed, unshakable, destroyed any doubt about what had happened. Mr. Chen pushed my wheelchair into the lake knowing I would sink. I told the jury. He walked away discussing how to spend my money. He called 911 45 minutes later to stage a discovery of my body. If I hadn't been an Olympic-level swimmer, I would be dead. He fully intended to kill me. The defense tried to question my swimming ability, suggesting I might be exaggerating. The prosecutor brought in James Park, my former student, now detective. I've known Dorothy Chen for 25 years. She was my swimming coach. I've seen her swim, even now at 68. With severe arthritis, her upper body strength and swimming ability are remarkable. They showed footage from my recent adaptive swimming classes, me in the pool demonstrating techniques for disabled swimmers, clearly comfortable and competent in the water. The jury watched me swim laps in the video, using primarily my arms, moving through the water with unmistakable skill. Rachel testified against her own son. Tyler has always had a sense of entitlement, she said, tears streaming down her face. But I never thought he'd hurt anyone, especially not his grandmother who's only ever been kind to him. When I saw that video of him pushing her into the lake, I didn't recognize my own son. That's not the person I raised. Or maybe it is, and I just didn't want to see it. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Tyler Chen, attempted first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, elder financial abuse, fraud, multiple counts of forgery and theft. Amber Chen, conspiracy to commit murder, accessory to attempted murder, elder financial abuse. At sentencing, the judge addressed Tyler directly. Mr. Chen, you targeted your own grandmother, a woman who loved you, supported you financially, helped you throughout your life, and you tried to murder her for money. You saw her wheelchair and assumed vulnerability. You chose water as your weapon because you thought she was helpless. You didn't know she was an Olympic athlete, didn't care to know. You saw only what you wanted to see, an obstacle between you and money. Elder abuse by family members is one of the most insidious crimes in our society. The elderly should be able to trust their families. Your grandmother should have been able to trust you. Instead, you betrayed that trust in the most fundamental way possible. This court sentences you to 25 years in prison. Amber Chen, you are sentenced to 15 years. Neither of you will be eligible for parole until you've served at least 85% of your sentence. Tyler broke down crying. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. The judge continued. You're not sorry you did it. You're sorry you got caught. There's a profound difference. Your grandmother survived because of her own strength, skill, and intelligence. Not because of any mercy from you. I hope you spend every day of the next 25 years thinking about what you tried to do, and I hope you never forget. She survived. She won. You lost. 1 year after the trial, I was at the community pool teaching adaptive swimming. My class had grown significantly. Word had spread about the Olympic swimmer who'd survived her grandson's murder attempt, and suddenly everyone wanted to learn from me. I had students of all ages and abilities. Elderly people who thought they were too old to swim. People with disabilities who'd been told water wasn't for them. Wheelchair users who thought swimming was impossible. Swimming saved my life, I told my class that morning. Literally, my grandson tried to kill me by pushing me into water. He thought my wheelchair made me helpless, but water is where I'm strongest. Where all of you can be strongest too. In the water, disabilities matter less. Your wheelchair stays on the deck. Your cane stays on the side. In the water, you're free. One of my students, a 73-year-old woman named Martha, raised her hand. Mrs. Chen, my daughter has been pressuring me to sign over my house to her. She says I'm too old to manage it alone. But I manage fine. What should I do? Don't sign, I said firmly. Your age doesn't make you incompetent. If your daughter wants to help, she can help without owning your house. If she's pressuring you, that's a red flag. Family members commit 90% of elder financial abuse. They target us because they think we're vulnerable. Because they think we'll trust them and not question. Another student spoke up. But Mrs. Chen, they're our children, don't we owe them something? You owe them the love and care you gave while raising them. You don't owe them your home, your savings, your security. I paid for my grandson's college education, helped him when he was unemployed, gave him money he never repaid. He repaid me by trying to murder me for my inheritance. You don't owe your children your life. Literally or figuratively, Martha asked quietly. Do you ever hear from Tyler? He writes letters from prison. I return them unopened. Don't you want to know if he's sorry? If he was truly sorry, he wouldn't have done it in the first place. Everything after that is just regret at being caught. I don't need to read his excuses. After class I swam my daily laps. Freestyle, my Olympic event, my arms pulled me through the water in a rhythm I'd known for over 60 years. My legs barely kicked. They couldn't really, but it didn't matter. I didn't need them. In the water I was whole. I was strong. I was free. I was 69 years old now. Tyler had 8 months served of his 25-year sentence. He'd be in his 50s when he got out. If he got out, prison was dangerous. Anything could happen, but I tried not to think about that. Tried not to let him occupy space in my mind. He'd tried to take my life. He'd failed. That was all that mattered. 18 months after the trial, I spoke at a national conference on elder abuse in Washington, D.C. The auditorium held 500 people: social workers, law enforcement, advocates, attorneys, medical professionals, all of them dedicated to protecting elderly people from exploitation. I reeled onto the stage and looked out at the audience. My name is Dorothy Chen. I'm 69 years old. I'm an Olympic bronze medalist in swimming. And 18 months ago my grandson tried to murder me for my inheritance. I told them the whole story. The dinner, the dock, the push into the water, the shock of realizing my own grandson wanted me dead. Tyler saw my wheelchair and assumed helplessness. He used water as his murder weapon because he thought I couldn't swim. He'd known me his entire life. But he never asked about my past, never asked about my career, never asked what I was capable of. He saw only what he wanted to see: an elderly woman in a wheelchair, an obstacle, a bank account with an inconvenient person attached. He forgot, or never knew, that I'm a survivor. A fighter, someone who's been strong her entire life. The wheelchair doesn't define me, my age doesn't diminish me, and his attempt to kill me didn't destroy me. Someone in the audience asked, "What would you say to other elderly people facing exploitation by family?" I'd say, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, it probably is. If someone is pressuring you to sign documents, to give them money, to transfer assets, ask yourself why. Who benefits? Document everything. I had security cameras. They saved my life and put my attacker in prison. Don't be ashamed to report family members. I know it's hard. I know it feels like betrayal, but attempting to exploit you is the betrayal. Protecting yourself is survival. And remember, you are not helpless. You have strength, experience, wisdom. You've survived decades of life. You can survive this too. Another question: have you forgiven Tyler? I paused, considering. No, I don't think I ever will. He tried to kill me, planned it for weeks, walked away from my drowning body discussing how to spend my money. That's not forgivable. But I've made peace with it. I've accepted that my grandson is a person capable of murder, that he saw me as nothing but money, that the relationship we had was built on lies. I don't need to forgive him to move forward with my life. I just need to be free of him, which I am. He's in prison for 25 years. I'm out here living my life, teaching swimming, helping other elderly people protect themselves. I won. The standing ovation lasted 5 minutes. 2 years after Tyler's conviction, the civil lawsuit concluded. My lawyer had filed suit against Tyler and Amber for damages, emotional distress, pain and suffering, attempted wrongful death. The jury awarded me $2 million in damages. Of course, Tyler and Amber had no money. They'd never be able to pay, but it didn't matter. What mattered was the judgment on record. The official recognition that they'd harmed me. The permanent mark on their records. I donated the theoretical $2 million to establish the Dorothy Chen Foundation for Elder Protection. The foundation provided legal services to elderly people facing exploitation, funded security camera installations for low-income seniors, offered swimming classes for elderly and disabled people. If I can turn my grandson's attempt to murder me into something that helps hundreds of other people, I told the foundation's board, then something good comes from something terrible. Rachel, my daughter, worked with the foundation part-time. It was her way of making amends, though I told her 1,000 times she had nothing to make amends for. Mom, I should have seen what Tyler was becoming, she'd say. Tyler hid who he was from everyone. That's not your fault, but I raised him. You raised him with love and good values. He chose to reject those values. That's on him, not you. Rachel and I had grown closer in the 2 years since Tyler's arrest. We talked every week. She visited monthly. We were healing together. As for Tyler, I heard updates occasionally. He'd tried to appeal his conviction. Denied. He'd requested early parole. Denied. He'd gotten into fights in prison and lost privileges. I felt nothing when I heard these updates. No satisfaction, no pity, nothing. He'd made his choices. Now he was living with the consequences. On the 2-year anniversary of my attempted murder, I did something I'd been planning for months. I swam across Lake Morrison. The lake is 2 miles wide at its widest point. I'd never attempted the full crossing before, not since my arthritis had gotten bad, but I wanted to prove something, to myself maybe, or to the world. I wanted to prove that at 69 years old with severe arthritis using primarily my arms, I could still swim 2 miles across open water. Rachel came to watch, along with a dozen of my swimming students. Jennifer Walsh brought her news camera. This story deserved a follow-up. Mrs. Chen, Jennifer asked before I entered the water. Why are you doing this? Because Tyler thought water would kill me. I want to show that water is where I'm most alive. Are you nervous? No. I've been training for 2 months. I know I can do this. What would you say to Tyler if he could hear this? I looked directly into the camera, knowing he'd never see this. He had no internet access in prison, but saying it anyway, I'd say, you tried to kill me in the water. You thought my wheelchair made me weak. You thought age made me helpless. Today I'm swimming 2 miles across this lake. At 69, with arthritis, using mostly my arms, I'm doing what you thought was impossible. I'm thriving in the element you thought would kill me. I won. You lost, and I'm never going to stop winning. I transferred from my wheelchair into the water. The cold was bracing, familiar, welcome. I pushed off from the dock and began to swim, freestyle, the stroke I'd competed with in the Olympics 47 years ago, the stroke that was as natural to me as breathing. My arms pulled through the water in a rhythm perfected over 64 years of swimming. My legs barely kicked, they couldn't really, but they trailed behind, offering just enough balance. Stroke, breathe. Stroke, breathe, the rhythm of a lifetime. 20 minutes in, my arms were burning. 40 minutes in, I was only halfway across. 60 minutes in, I could see the far shore. I never stopped, never slowed, never doubted. 90 minutes after I started, I touched the far shore. The small crowd waiting there erupted in cheers. Rachel was crying. My students were cheering. Jennifer's camera captured it all. I pulled myself onto the dock at the far side, into a wheelchair one of my students had brought over by car. Jennifer thrust the microphone at me. Mrs. Chen, you did it. How do you feel? Strong, I said, gasping but grinning. I feel strong. What does this accomplish? What does this prove? It proves that age doesn't mean weakness, that disability doesn't mean helplessness, that being underestimated can be the greatest gift. Tyler underestimated me, thought I was weak, thought I couldn't survive. I just swam 2 miles across a lake. At 69, with severe arthritis, in the same water he tried to drown me in. That's my answer to his attempt on my life. That's my victory. The story went viral again. Olympic swimmer, 69, crosses lake where grandson tried to drown her. Hundreds of people reached out. Other survivors of attempted murder, other elderly people who'd been exploited by family, other disabled people who'd been underestimated. My story had become bigger than me. It had become a symbol of survival, of strength, of refusing to be a victim. 3 years after Tyler's conviction, I received a letter from him that I actually read. Not a letter to me, a letter to the parole board, which was legally required to send me a copy since I was the victim. Tyler was petitioning for early parole. After 3 years he thought he'd served enough time. His letter was full of apologies. How sorry he was. How he'd changed. How he'd found religion in prison. How he'd completed anger management and therapy. How he was a different person now. He acknowledged what he'd done. I attempted to murder my grandmother for financial gain. I saw her as an obstacle rather than a person. I was selfish, cruel, and evil. I have spent every day of the past 3 years thinking about what I did. About how I hurt my grandmother, my mother, my family. I am deeply ashamed. I am not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I am asking for a chance to prove I've changed, to live a better life outside these walls. I read the letter twice. Then I wrote my response to the parole board. Tyler Chen attempted to murder me by pushing me into a lake in my wheelchair. He planned this for weeks. He researched how to stage my death. He stole from me for months before deciding to simply kill me. He walked away from my drowning body discussing how to spend my inheritance. He called 911 45 minutes later to stage a discovery of my body. If I hadn't been an Olympic swimmer, if I hadn't had the strength and skill to survive in water, I would be dead. He fully intended to kill me. His letter to you claims he's changed. Perhaps he has. Perhaps prison has taught him remorse. But he was sentenced to 25 years. He's served 3 years. For attempted murder seems insufficient. I oppose his parole. He should serve his full sentence. This will give him more time to reflect on his actions and will ensure he's truly changed before being released back into society. I have moved on with my life. I teach swimming to elderly and disabled people. I run a foundation helping elder abuse victims. I swim every day in the same lake where he tried to drown me. I am thriving despite his attempt on my life, but that doesn't mean he's earned early release. Justice requires he serve his time. I request that his parole be denied. The parole board denied Tyler's petition unanimously. He'd be eligible to petition again in 5 years. By then he'd have served 8 years. Still less than a third of his sentence. Maybe then, maybe not. It wasn't my decision anymore. I'd said my piece. The system would do what it would do. I was done letting Tyler take up space in my mind. I'm 70 years old now. It's been 3 years since Tyler pushed me into Lake Morrison and tried to murder me. 3 years since I swam to safety and watched him get arrested. 3 years of healing, of teaching, of helping others, of living. I swim every day, weather permitting. Sometimes in the lake, sometimes in the community pool. My arms are still strong. My technique is still sound. The wheelchair is still part of my life. My arthritis hasn't improved. If anything, it's gotten worse. Some days I can barely transfer from bed to chair without help, but I don't see the wheelchair as weakness anymore. I see it as adaptation, as survival, as a tool that lets me live my life on my terms. Tyler saw the wheelchair and saw helplessness. He was wrong. I teach adaptive swimming 3 times a week. My classes are full of people who thought they couldn't swim. Elderly people, disabled people, people who'd been told the water wasn't for them. I'm proof. I tell them that you can be strong in unexpected ways, that your limitations don't define you, that being underestimated can be your greatest advantage. Last week a woman in her 80s joined my class. She'd had a stroke that left her partially paralyzed. My son says I should just give up, she told me. Says I'm too old, too disabled, too weak to do anything anymore. Your son is wrong, I said. Let me teach you to swim. Let me show you what you're capable of. By the end of the lesson she was floating on her back, moving through the water, smiling wider than she had in months. I did it, she whispered. I actually did it. Yes, you did. And you'll do more. You're stronger than anyone gives you credit for. That's my mission now. Not revenge on Tyler. He's in prison. That chapter is closed. My mission is helping other people discover their own strength. On the 3-year anniversary of my attempted murder, I held a fundraiser for the Dorothy Foundation. 200 people attended. Survivors of elder abuse, advocates, supporters, people whose lives have been touched by my story. Rachel stood beside me as I addressed the crowd. 3 years ago my grandson tried to murder me. He pushed me into a lake, expecting me to drown. He thought my wheelchair made me helpless. He thought my age made me vulnerable. He thought water would be my end. He was wrong on every count. I survived, because I'm an Olympic swimmer. Because I've been strong my entire life. Because I refused to be a victim. Today, 3 years later, I stand before you alive, healthy, stronger than ever, teaching others to swim, running a foundation that's helped over 300 elderly abuse victims. Living in the house Tyler tried to kill me for. I won, he lost. And I'll keep winning every day I'm alive. My message to every elderly person, every disabled person, every person who's been underestimated: you are stronger than they think, more capable than they imagine, more resilient than they expect. Don't let anyone, especially family, make you feel weak or helpless. Don't let anyone exploit your trust or your love. You have survived decades of life. You can survive this too. And if you need help, reach out to police, to lawyers, to organizations like this foundation. You are not alone. Tyler thought he could get away with murder because society doesn't value elderly lives, because we're seen as disposable, as burdens, as obstacles. He learned otherwise, and every person who tries to exploit an elderly person should learn the same lesson. We fight back. We survive. We win. I'm Dorothy Chen. I'm 70 years old. I'm an Olympic swimmer. I'm a survivor, and I'm still here. The standing ovation lasted 10 minutes. Tyler will be eligible for parole again in 5 years. He'll have served 8 years of his 25-year sentence. The parole board will ask for my statement. They'll want to know if I've forgiven him, if I think he's changed, if I support his release. I don't know yet what I'll say. Maybe by then, I'll have softened. Maybe time will have dulled the sharp edges of betrayal, or maybe I'll remember how it felt to sink into that cold, dark water. How it felt to hear my grandson discussing my death. How it felt to realize the child I'd helped raise wanted me dead. Time will tell. For now, I'm focused on living, on swimming, on teaching, on helping others. Tyler tried to end my life. Instead, he gave me purpose. Every person I teach to swim is a victory over him. Every elderly person I help protect is a victory over what he represents. Every day I wake up in the house he tried to kill me for is a victory. I didn't just survive. I thrived. That's my revenge. That's my justice. That's my victory. This morning, I swam my laps in Lake Morrison, the same lake where Tyler tried to drown me, the same water that was supposed to be my grave. The water was cold and clear. The sun was rising, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. I did my freestyle stroke, the one I'd perfected over a lifetime, the one that won me an Olympic medal, the one that saved my life. Stroke, breathe, stroke, breathe. The rhythm of survival. After my swim, I pulled myself onto the dock, the same dock where Tyler pushed me into the water. I sat there for a moment, catching my breath, looking out over the lake. This is my home, my element, my strength. Tyler thought water would kill me. Instead, water saved me, proved my strength, became my sanctuary. I'm 70 years old. I use a wheelchair. I have severe arthritis. I'm a widow. I'm elderly, and I'm stronger than my grandson ever imagined. That's the lesson he learned too late. Never underestimate the elderly. Never assume disability means helplessness. Never think age means weakness. We've survived longer than you for a reason. We're tougher than you think, smarter than you imagine, stronger than you expect. Tyler learned that lesson at the cost of 25 years of his life. I hope every potential abuser learns the same lesson before they try to hurt someone they think is vulnerable. Because we're not vulnerable. We're survivors. We're fighters. We're winners, and we will not go quietly into the water. We will swim. I'm Dorothy Chen, Olympic swimmer, teacher, survivor, victor. They shoved my wheelchair into the lake and declared she's gone now. The $500K and the house are ours. But I didn't sink. I swam, and the camera captured everything. And I'm still here, still swimming, still winning, still alive.